Hi everyone, it's Heidi from flutterbyheidi.co.uk and today I'm working with the Kindest Gnomes, and it's one of my sort of simple cards. So this is about quick and easy card making, but also a little bit of a technique as well. So you see here I've got my lovely Kindest Gnomes, and in here you have these fabulous 4 gnomes, sentiments, little toadstool house, and then these little toadstools are cut using the dies that accompany the stamp set, and you can use these dies to either cut out the images or create like a larger gnome as well with some stitching. They will also cut out from the DSP these gnomes and toadstools as well. So I'm going to do 2 or 3 things, so keep watching till the end because I'm going to do a couple of variations on this card. But this one is just about making something that's really quick to do, ready for Christmas, when you perhaps need to crank out the cards a little bit more quickly than usual. So you are going to need some stays on and some vellum, because we're going to colour on some vellum. I'm using a blender pen as well. If you've got stamping blends, you could use those. I've just used scraps to create these toadstools, and then I've also used a blending brush to add ink to my card as well. So you're going to start off with a standard card base. So whatever your standard card but 10th fold card base is, you can see here. And you just want, so this one is 14.5 by 21, scored at 10.5. So that's in inches, 5 3/4 inches by 8 1/4 inches, scored at 4 1/8. I'm then going to add some colour. So I've got my pool party, so this is really pale ink that I'm going to use, and yeah, I'll just make sure that wasn't an ink mark. With your blending brush, dab it into the ink, then starting off, come in from the side. It's back to that, you can always add more, and with these just be really gentle and just keep going over and over till you've built up the colour. You will get more colour on this leading edge, if you don't want that, then you need to start on the card. And then just add just a sort of nice layer of colour, and it just creates a little bit of interest as well. While our card is nice and flat, we're going to add our sentiment, so I've used that. I'm hoping to be able to stamp this reasonably straight, she says optimistically. Not bad. Okay, not bad for me, I would say. Okay, so background is as simple as that. What you then want is to take a piece of our vellum, and this vellum is lovely and thick, so it's really good, and you're going to want your stays on ink, okay, because this is non-porous, so you want to keep that keep this for just these sort of projects. And you'll remember, clean it off very quickly with your stays on ink, stays on cleaner as well. So I'm just going over and really inking that up well. With your stays on, you get that little tray. Make sure that that goes straight back on as well. I've got mine attached to my inside with a couple of dimensionals, but you just want to make sure that's really nice and sealed. And I do store that upside down, and then come in and just hold for a couple of seconds, and then you have a lovely clear image. So just let that dry just for a few seconds, because we don't want that to smudge, and that's the time when you can just use that few moments to use your stays on cleaner and just get that nice and clean on your stamp. Now I'm going to come in and die cut that. So again, with my die, a couple of bits of post-it note tape. I die cut before I colour in this instance, because you don't want to go to the effort of colouring and then mess up the die cutting. So let's die cut that, and you'll end up with a lovely toadstool like this. Now, there are a couple of ways you can colour this. So my original sample was coloured with stamping blends, so you'll get a stronger colour using stamping blends. But you can colour it, if you don't have the blends, using a blender pen and an ink pad. You're going to want your Bermuda Bay ink pad. And you're going to want a little non-porous surface, so I'm using one of my little blocks, and you quite simply come in and on the reverse side, so flip it over, I'm going to add that colour. So I'm doing this as if I'm using blends, so I'm adding this darker colour in those sort of along those shadowed kind of areas. So when you start using it, it's sort of quite dark, and then as it becomes lighter as you obviously colour with it a little bit more, and you'll see as you go over it, it will start to blend in the same way that, as I say, that stamping blends do. So things like the windows, anything I want to be dark, I'm coming in straight away with my my Bermuda Bay, like so. So just coming in and starting to colour away on that, like so. And then the next thing I'm going to do is grab my Coastal Cabana, so that's the lighter shade, and you're going to come in and say, I always put it on a block. I don't want to be dipping my blender pen, I don't want to contaminate my ink pad with that. And then I'm just going to come in and colour over the back there. And it sort of looks quite sort of, if you like, rough at this stage. So say just coming in little bit of depth of colour, and I'm just going to colour all over with those. And as I say, because it's non-porous, you'll start to get that blended effect as well. So once you've finished, I'm just going to colour over those windows, which are lighter now, and make sure I've got some colour, and then turn it over, and there we go. And you can have a look and see if there's anywhere you want to add a bit more colour or blend it out a bit. Just like so. And there we have our fun little house ready to go. Then you want to stamp on your images just on some plain white cardstock. As you know, I'll have a session where I do lots of die cutting of the shapes, and then I use my Stamparatus to actually to create lots of the same images just ready to go. So these are already done in Memento. And if you want to have a look, I've got a video on my YouTube with Cottage Garden, actually Cottage Rose, I keep calling it Cottage Garden, where I show you how to do mirror images as well. But the same principle is to cut an aperture and then stamp multiple images, or stamp the image multiple times onto blank shapes using that aperture. So all I'm doing is just coming in with a little bit of the ink that's left. Okay, that was me knocking a block on the floor. I didn't ignore the noise. Okay, and there we have our little person. I'm just going to pop that under a block to flatten that out. There's my person, and I've already die cut some of my little toadstools, so I'm just going to grab a couple of those, a couple of stems. We've got Coastal Cabana stem, maybe slightly darker. Yeah, there we go. Okay, those are ready to go. We're going to stamp our image on the inside as well, forgot to do that. So again, you know, if you're doing a simpler card, you want to make sure that the inside has some interest. So just stamp one of our little gnomes on the inside corner. And great thing about this is it's really quite light to post as well. So, you know, at this time of year, certainly our post just shot up. So you really want to make sure that you're not incurring extra cost. Now, to add this to the front of our card, I'm using our glue dots. So I'm putting a couple in the corner there, one in each corner, and one up at the top. And I'm putting it in areas where there's a bit more interest, so you're not going to really see that. And then just add, add them where you feel there's a bit of interest. And then we can just pop that just in from the side, roughly halfway up, like so. Take our person and grab your dimensionals. I've just got some mini dimensionals here. So pop those on. And while we're doing that, I'm going to pop my some on the back of my toadstools and just shape those very gently, either with a bone folder or just with your finger and thumb, to create a bit of interest. Now again, if you're struggling with postage, then you could just add these on flat as well. And just take those backs off. Now what I've done, as I say, is I've done the colouring with this one, but what you might want to do is use some of those, some of that DSP and cut those out. So the outlines are quite easy on these ones, so you could, if you haven't got the dies, then you could just hand cut those as well. So I've just added a little bit of Tombow onto these, just to pop that in place. Okay, so there's our second card. So we've got our first one, which is coloured with Stampin' Blends, this one here. This one is coloured with a blender pen, and then I'm just going to do a third variation now. There's my card blank. I'm going to grab some Balmy Blue ink, she says, hopefully, and let's do one with some of the stamped images. Just so I'm moving away from Pool Party into Balmy Blue here, and that's because the image I've chosen to use is, I stopped talking. The image I've chosen to use is one that's got is Balmy Blue. So here we go, here's our Balmy Blue. I'm going to add a little bit more colour onto that, I think. Like so, there we go. And so this would keep it even simpler for you. So just die cut or hand cut your image. This one's sort of Pacific Point and Balmy Blue. You can pop in there. Having the wiggle room is always useful by using some wet glue. Let's stamp our sentiment while we've got our ink pad to hand. We can pop that in the bottom corner. And that's wonky, so I'll probably cover that up with a layered image. And then pop your person I suddenly realised why I hadn't used so I was like, oh, why haven't I used this snowflake paper on any projects? And then I realised when I turned it over, it's because it's got the little gnomes on it. So if you want to cut the gnomes out of the paper, you're not going to get much of the snowflake paper left to do layers. There we go. But there we go. There's our little girl. So there we go. 3 cards, 3 different techniques. Balmy Blue Pool Party. Obviously you've got lovely detail of the colouring here. Blender pen and Stampin' Blends. There you go. 3 ways to produce a card from one stamp set. Thanks for watching. Come back and see me soon. And if you can hit that subscribe button with the notification bell, then you'll find out when I'm posting any more videos. And if you can choose me as your demonstrator when you check out, I'd really appreciate it. I can send you one of my thank you gifts. Thanks for watching. Bye now.